So, welcome everyone. So this is the kickoff of our summer series of Lunch and Learn. We have great additions to the team. Linda Kaiser, who's heading the Lunch and Learn now, and we have Meredith Hass, who is helping with us, and Stephanie Caban, who is not here with us today. And so we're really excited to have you all here. You all have received the schedule for the summer, ranging from June 3rd to August 5th, and we have 10 sessions, and we're really excited. For those that are online, we're in one of our newest classrooms. It's a very engaging classroom with large TVs, televisions, and everything of that nature. But I want to move on to Dr. Jeremy Bauer. He's going to be speaking with us about KPI. And so, tons of information. As an associate faculty member of his, that information is very helpful. And so, this is a one reminder, this is an in-person and online session. If any of the online members have a question, please chat your question in the chat box at any point, and we will either unmute you so you can speak your question out loud, or we'll speak your question out loud for you. So, again, without further ado, Dr. Jeremy Bauer.
Thank you, Deontay. I really don't want to take up a whole lot of everybody's time. I just want to make one quick announcement that I was told to preface. I use KPI, I guess we all use KPI, but what we went to our accreditors with at NEAS was the Academic Performance Management Tool. So not only are many of us APMs, we also use an APM in our APM duties. So, if that makes sense. For the sake of this meeting, since it's already out there on all the sheets and all the PowerPoint slides, we're just going to stick with KPI. And it's basically just the key performance indicator is what we're looking at so that we can strategize, measure, innovate, and propagate to our associate faculty and manage our programs a little bit better. What I'm going to do today is take you through these 5 steps on how to automate the process as an APM. So currently you're going through, if you log into cognosweb.post.local to get into your section of the KPI, and it takes you through 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, maybe 7 steps in order to generate your reports, and going through those 7 steps can take up to 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the report that you're running. Zvi had sent us out a report, I don't know, this has got to be, what, 2 months ago? 5 months, maybe? And that was, who was the lady that put it all together? Diane Quimby. And there was a little bit of confusion on how to actually automate it. I took some time, I sat down, and I figured it out, and I'm going to walk everybody through the first part of this Lunch and Learn today on how to set it up so that you'll be able to do the report in 2 clicks instead of 7, and it'll take you 2 minutes instead of 15. So that's why you have your laptops with you, hopefully. Huh?
I'm resending it.
I think it can it's cognosweb.post.local, right?
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be working for everyone.
It's not working. No. Jonathan?
No, I just resent it, so
Yeah.
just refresh. Actually, I'll
B. Robbie, that we sent it to?
Yep. I think my Outlook is, for some reason, it needs to reboot every once in a while.
Please just send everybody a link right now. I apologize. I thought that we all just had access to it straight away. Or I would have asked that Deontay send it out to everybody. So while Zvi is sending that out, the second stage that I'm going to go through is just the interpretation of the KPI. Yeah, I'm only going over KPI 2. Not KPI 1, because that's the only one that I use as an APM, is KPI 2, and that lets us look at what our faculty are doing. KPI 1 lets us look at what the students are doing within the faculty's class, That to me wasn't as relevant of information that I needed as an APM. So I looked at KPI 2, and we're going to go over that. Then the action that I take with it, how I use it, to increase engagement. I'll give you guys a couple of examples on how it's increased engagement by the methods that I use, and then the frequency in which I use it. Now, these are all just the way that I do it. You don't have to. It could be too much for you. It could be too controversial for you to do my methods. That's completely fine. I'm just going over the way that I use it and the results that I've gotten from that matter of using it. So, if everybody is in Cognos, click on it.
No, Connie got it.
So people online don't have the link either?
Did you send it to them?
It's only the APMs that are going to have it, so any associate faculty wouldn't have the login credentials to get in.
Yeah, I sent one to you.
So if there's associate faculty online, I apologize, you're going to have to bear with us for about 5 minutes as we go through this section. So once everybody gets into Cognos, you'll go to home.
This will be full like 2 weeks ago or something.
See, I believe it's email and
So what did you do? Did you do more or?
Well, I'm gonna ask the question here. He has to know. Cognos program calculus. So it's the algorithm inside the program.
Yeah.
And I think he did the user
He is sending all the
so he would
APMs
know
email right now.
to calculate.
Who does not have access? Who does not have access to who does not?
I'm not sure that.
Who can I get on?
So just Carolyn? Yes.
And G, I think just.
Login and password should be the same as you use for Blackboard.
What I used to get on my computer. It's not Blackboard, it's my computer.
For your computer.
Oh, for your computer?
Windows.
Yeah, for the system. It's my system password.
Logging into the system. Technical glitches, they happen. So, we good? Good? You good? Now you're on? We're good? Everybody's got thumbs up? Okay, so you're going to click on, after you log in, you're going to click on Home, and then you're going to click on the assessments, right?
So I'm canceling this, so
Assessment team.
This is what comes up.
Yeah, assessment team. Yeah, and then you're going to go to KPI
2.
So this is where we start. Okay.
Yep.
So now you should have you should be looking at average posting KPI 2 and student assessment KPI 1. We're just going to focus on the top one, the average assessment KPI 2. All right. You're going to check that box to the left. All right, and then if you look at the PowerPoint, the third item on the right, click to create a report view of this report. We're going to click on that. Right, it's this item right here. And that will bring us up to this.
Why don't make any assumptions with the words, so I just.
The screen should look like the one on the left right now. Right? In that top one, we can name it. I name mine marketing department KPI. You can name it whatever you want. Weekly, monthly, daily, whatever creative name that you want to come up with. And then at the bottom, you see where it says location. You want to click select my folders. And then click finish. Everybody with us online? Everybody following in here? Okay, now we're going to go to my folders see the tab at the top. After you click finish, you see public folders and my folders tab. In the circled area. You see it?
Are we in new folder wizard?
No, you should have clicked from here, you click right my folder.
Wizard. I like that name, Wizard.
Just name your, you gotta name your KPI. You gotta give it a name.
Oh, you thought that was this? Yeah.
There's 5 to 1 hour.
All right, now you're,
I need to look at my computer.
now you go to my folder.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, okay, yours is loaded up. Look for the one that you just created. If you have a whole bunch in your My Folders, look for the one that you just created. Okay? Then you see the first item all the way to the right, the Set Properties icon. You're going to click that.
Jimmy, do we need to select this report
No,
name?
nope,
Or no?
nope.
Okay.
Just go to Set Properties.
All right.
Okay, you should come to this, you'll have 3 tabs at the top. Report, General, Report View, and Permissions. You're going to go to Report View. You should come up with a tab that looks similar to this. Unclick the bottom where it says Prompt for Values, uncheck that. Then click on, right above that, you'll see where it says Set. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty. So click on Set, and now everybody should be familiar with this. This is where it's going to take you the longest part of the setting it up, because you're going to set up your track. Most of us is going to be online. The academic year is going to be 14-15. Mod 5, 14-15. I'm going faster, obviously, than the computer loads, so. By the time we get done with all of this, the only 2 that you're going to have to click moving forward are week number and day of the week. They'll all be set up for you. Promise. You can take that to the bank.
For all it's worth.
Okay, next.
So, once you're all done, you're all set up?
Yep, well, I clicked on 5.
Oh, yeah.
Then my week number.
So,
Which one do we want to focus on?
it doesn't matter. You pick any week, because ultimately every week those are going to change.
Mhm.
So whatever week you want to set in there.
Okay.
Jeremy, which mod should this bus?
Mod 5 could be the best one.
And then
Right up the
week
top.
number doesn't matter?
What?
Week doesn't matter?
No.
Or day of the week?
No.
Leave it blank or select?
Well, no, you have to select it in order to move forward. So just select anything at this point.
Okay.
So it would be easiest to pick week 5, day Sunday, because that will give you all of last week's information when you run the report the first time. Next week you would just change it.
Oh, every week you want to run this.
Yeah, and essentially what he's doing now is, so that hopefully.
There's 0 on its own, and you don't have to go in here.
Yeah, so that's always been tough. I didn't know if there was a thing set up. So you're when we're all undergraduate, then
We'll get into that, so I will address that coming
you
up.
have to wait for it.
When we get into the interpretation. You can take any. Well, we're not in, we take that as this mod.
Oh, gotcha.
Once you set it up,
Perfect, thank you.
So this mod, everybody, we're only in week 6 right now, so you can't pick week 8 because we aren't there yet.
Go into
But it
it, and all you
hasn't
have to do is choose
So-
the mod and.
This is a backwards looking system, not forward.
Okay.
It can't, no.
I don't think we're there yet.
Let me know after you've gone all the way through. And then you would pick your day of the week. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday, doesn't matter. Those of you that are in the graduate division, obviously would pick graduate. Those of you that are in undergraduate would pick undergraduate. Those of you that are deans that are running this, you may have to do 3 clicks because you're going to pick different KPIs and different divisions. This may not work as well for a dean as it does for an API. Just saying. We're just going to lay it all out there truthfully.
Once you select, like I selected all of the courses,
Yep.
would the data come out differentiated, would it be separated, or would it be all together?
I'll show you. You'll see. We're going to get to that stage. We got to get through setting it up first.
Gotcha. When I clicked on subjects, all these popped up. They weren't there before, so I
Select the program.
from my side, these are all the courses that are running. These are the faculty that are, that I guess I could run the course on. By faculty or by or in between. We had access to this. You should
So, yeah, you don't, if you're in charge of all those classes,
you are a AF, right?
this is how it's going to run the report.
Go in and do the
I don't even select the classes for
Yeah.
the instructors,
Yeah.
just by default.
It does them all? Yeah, okay.
Yep, I'm just,
And
You got it.
oh,
Yes, so anything,
That's all right. We're back out here. Now you're gonna click that when you get to that.
okay, okay.
Then you can hit okay.
I could really.
I never go through all these steps. I don't get in that folder, I just go right into the KPIs.
So you don't gotta click any of that.
No.
Because those will change.
Okay.
As you add new instructors.
Gotcha.
So you just, once you click that,
And that's why you normally pick Sunday, because that's the last day that they.
Right, and don't do anything.
Yeah. E-N-T-E.
You're up, so just click finish.
E-N-T-E.
So once you've entered everything up to subject, okay, which is your subject, if you're responsible for all the classes in the classes section, you don't need to click anything. Just click finish. And then don't do anything. We'll be all set for the next stage, because it's going to take us back to the stage where we uncheck the prompt for values box. We need to check that box. Because this is what's going to make it so that it asks us each time we run it what we want to change. It's going to prompt us for those values. And you'll need to change the week and day when you run it. Or just the day if you want to run it every single day. Yep?
Yeah, sorry, I distracted her.
Yeah, you just, so you click the ones that you're responsible for, and then
Finish? Oh.
Yeah. That's fine.
yeah, you're gonna have to start all over because you skipped that one.
No, I did it.
Hopefully it doesn't. Okay. So you're good. Okay, so now once we get back to this screen, everybody's hopefully looking at how to do. You're gonna click the prompt for values, and then click OK.
It's okay.
Okay. If you want, before you click OK, you can view all, and that'll allow you to know all the parameters that you just set, if you want to. Right? And it'll look something like this. Like mine, when I ran it, marketing mod, week 4, undergrad, online, subject, so on and so forth. Okay? Now, since I have multiples, I set this up for various different ones. Your report that you just created, all you do is go into My Folders and click on that report, and it's going to run it exactly the way that you just set up all of the parameters. Right? All you're going to do now is change the time period yeah, it's this room, which is the week and the day. Those are the only two numbers that you'll have to change until a new mod comes up, and then you'll just change that from mod 5 to mod 6. You just change the parameters. Huh?
So far, so good.
So far, so good, right? So you're all set. You just run that. Right? Are there any questions? Because now you're all done. You're all set. Every time you log into Cognos, you go into My Folders, go into the report that you just created, and you just change the parameters to meet whatever day of the week it is that you're looking for. Any questions online?
So do your report, do you click your report title or one of these?
Nope, the report, so whatever report you just created, yep, you go right there and watch. As
Do
soon as
you
you
click
click
the
it,
box?
nope, you click on your report,
So unclick the box.
go to your report, and it'll pull up exactly what we're looking at right here. It'll take a second just to generate all the information, but instead of the 15 minutes it just took us to walk through this, it'll take you
Took me right
less than a minute, exactly. So now all you're going to do in the future is just change these two parameters
Oh, okay.
instead of walking through it all.
Okay.
And it's everything that you click.
Okay?
So then, are we gonna actually view the report?
Well, you guys can, because I'm going to take you through the interpretation of it from the APM's perspective.
So, the instructor hasn't done it.
Were there any questions online? Okay. No questions in here, Chris, you're good?
Good.
Bonnie, you're okay?
I'm great, I just have other questions.
Okay. But we very well may get to those ones.
I know.
All right, so I'm going to move forward. This is what the report generates. Right, the KPI 2, this is what it generates. This is what we're looking at. You've got however many instructors you've got. This is a screenshot of one of my marketing classes. All right, we can see at the top the parameters that we chose, the track, the term, the week number, the division, and the program. That lets us know that we're looking at the right report.
Is this printed in any particular order? Most engaged, the least engaged?
I'm going to get into that. Yep. Okay. So before I get into, I guess I can cover that first. So when this report prints out, right, some of you like CSS, 3 pages print out. Right, I view my reports in PDF. There's just a little box at the top. When you see this, you can change it from HTML to PDF. I view it in PDF, that way I can distribute it. The report is generated from, and I want to say this delicately, from the top left would be considered the least engaged instructor, and the bottom right would be considered the most engaged instructor. So there's 16, I believe, that print out on one page. Okay, so the very top left corner is your least engaged instructor. The bottom right corner is your most engaged instructor, and it moves from left to right. So on the first line, let's just use this as an example. The person in the left corner, top left corner, is my least engaged instructor. On the very same line, all the way to the right, is the most engaged on that line. The person on the second line, all the way to the right, is the most engaged of the group. Okay, so it moves from left to right, top to bottom.
And how does it calculate that? Your eyes look at it and you...
The actual formula, I don't know, I haven't been able to get, but I do know that the student engagement outweighs the instructor engagement in the formula. So if you have a class that has more students engaged than the instructor is engaged, that class can rank higher than a class where there's more instructor engagement than there is student engagement. Does that make sense?
And also what we there here, if I may.
Yeah.
The 4 variables, right? 2 for the instructor.
Well, I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into
Right.
Just to calculate.
Each one of those variables gets a weight. Students get higher weights than instructors, and you do
weighted average of all the scores. Then based on that score, you arrange all these courses. The top left is the lowest score overall, the bottom right is the highest. So it's heavy bias towards student participation versus instructors. So intuitively, when you look at the page, you want to see first the worst case, so your eye should move to the top left. And then don't worry about the bottom right, because if you have limited time, you want to address first the worst case scenarios. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wondered about how it was ranked ordered, because you could tell each one of those is getting a number.
Yes.
So each person gets a final calculation number to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And that's all done behind the scenes, I don't see that as an APM.
No, I know.
think
This could be great.
But in the case of CSS, or if you're in a program with multiple pages, I'm just going to use you as an example because you've got 3 pages and I've seen your reports. Page 1 is the most glaring that you would want to deal with as an APM. Page 2 would be the middle of the pack. Page 3 would be the top of your pack. Okay, yeah, there's an online question.
Online question, so, the question is, so your best is always far right bottom?
That's correct.
Always.
Yes, and it will vary week to week depending on how engaged your instructors get and how engaged they get their students.
So it won't be, it's not by name, it's by engagement.
It's not by name, it's not by class. Like if marketing 400 could be bottom or top left, and marketing 101 could be bottom right.
Yeah, I see it.
And it's not tenure, so this instructor gets better ranking because they've been here longer. It's purely based on engagement.
And Jerry, one of the questions I had asked you before too is the calculations, just to make it clear, and people have heard before, is that the non-graded discussions are not included.
Well, yeah, let me get in. So that's a good question, right? So the only discussions that go into this KPI calculation are graded discussions. Introductions, ask the instructor, and anything else that you put in your class that is not graded as a discussion does not go into this calculation. So in week 1, you may get an instructor that engages 20 times in the ask the instructor, but 0 in the first unit's discussion. They will show up as having 0 engagement in the KPI.
So once you get this report, can you copy and paste? Can you take away any of these boxes, or is your report?
Well, if you wanted to run it like an individual, you would just go all the way through all those steps that we just did and only click on one report. That takes forever, especially if you've got like a class like CSS with 60 some odd sections.
Yeah.
You'd have to you'd have to run that report 60 some odd times per instructor. And I'll get into how I use it. I don't do that.
I have another question. Does anyone in OEI see any of this?
That's a good question that I don't know. They'd have to run the report. I don't.
Do they have access to run this
No.
report?
I think it's an APM tool only.
Only APM and APM.
Yeah, and directors and deans.
So you could snip tool it and put an email and
Yeah.
send it via that.
Yes, but again, it takes time that I don't want to take. So this is where it ranks. All right. Here is what Zvi was starting to get into with the how it's viewed. So the top of this diamond is the instructor's average number of postings. Okay, and we put average number of postings in there because as an APM, you're also in that course as a TA. So if you get into the course and you interact, or if you've got an instructor shadowing you and you're both engaged, it's the average of your 2 posts. If you're not in the class, then that number is just the pure number of the instructor's postings for that week, or for whatever the report that you ran. On the right of that diamond is the average number of sentences that instructor wrote per discussion. Okay? So that was calculated based on 100 characters as a sentence. All right? So a space is a character, a period is a character, an exclamation point is a character, a apostrophe, a parenthesis, those are all characters. Those all count as characters. Right? So if you have 100 characters in a sentence, it might be 5 words, it might be 20, no. Right? So it's just based on characters. Then they take that number of characters and divide it by the number of posts at the top. And then that gives you the average number of sentences per post.
Question?
Yep.
So is it that it's 100 characters, notwithstanding the punctuation? First 100 characters, that's sentence 1.
That's correct.
101 to 200, sentence 2.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
And all of this is drawn directly out of Blackboard, guys. So part of it I'll show you where you can go in. Many of you have done it in the past where you go into evaluation, then the performance dashboard, and then you can click on the instructor, and you can see all of this information is pulled directly from there. Okay? So if you got an instructor that questions you, I had one question you this morning. I sent him into Blackboard and said, look, you can check for this for yourself. You just weren't doing it. Right? He thought he had posted 25 to 30 times, and he posted 12. Right? So, and it says in Blackboard, you posted 12 times. You can't get around it. Right? So it isn't like this is fictitious. I blocked the names out on this. I sent an email out to all my instructors asking them if I could use their information in this lunch and learn. There was an individual that said that they didn't want it, so for the sake of everybody, I just blocked everybody's names out. But these are real reports that I have ran, so this isn't just some made-up information in here, okay? Just to let you guys know. So now, what, you have a question?
I'm sorry, it's gonna be quick, I'm interrupting your lecture.
You're all right.
We have the course name in the section up above, you can figure it out.
Yeah, but you can't. Well, maybe you can, yeah, because that's the other thing, as an APM or an APM, you can run anybody's KPI in any other program in the university. So if you really want to fact check me, the information is on PowerPoint. All right? I'm not using Snoops.
Is there a reason it doesn't run your own, like I'm teaching a course now, it's not?
It's just a general login. You have to select your criteria. So I can select your criteria and run your KPIs for you. If I wanted to. Yeah, so now every time you click on that report, it's running yours.
But it's not showing you the results.
As an instructor in a course, you're saying?
As an instructor in a course. So I'm currently an instructor in a course.
Well, see, that's a challenge as an APM because I found this out early on in the fall semester. You should have 2 accounts as an APM and an APM. Your numbered account, 000 whatever, that is your instructor account, right? So then you're in there as an instructor, and then you should have like your first name or whatever as your APM account, then you're in the class as a TA. If you are teaching the class as a TA, you won't show up in those results.
No.
Online,
Yes.
having some confusion with the green, the word in the green box for me. Is that, so how many sentences did this instructor post? What's the number?
So, okay, so you see the black rings that emanate out from the center like ripples in a pond?
Yes.
Right, so the first ring, if we go over to the measurement, right, is worth 5.
5.
Just the number 5. Okay, so on the top, it would be 5 posts. On the side, it would be 5 sentences. It's a scale. It's
Okay.
a scale, thank you.
So
Just think of that word.
this is saying that this instructor posted 20 posts of 20 sentences each?
That's correct. 20 posts.
The discussion board.
Average.
That's correct. On average, you know, he could have had one that was like
Word
awesome.
average.
That was his only word in post. And another one that was War and Peace. Right? So if this is on average, that's how many sentences per post. Right now, we can get into the nitty-gritty of what my expectations of my AFs are in my program, which will just heighten the controversy because it's quite
But we
extensive.
But we shan't.
Right? Yeah, so we won't go there. I can do that on the side. So then, on the bottom, you have the number of student postings. So that takes how many posts were generated that week by students divided by how many students were engaged. So that number at the top, you can see marketing 203.90, enrolled 16, engaged 15. That number on the bottom is only taking the number of posts, dividing it by the number that were engaged, not by the number that are enrolled. Okay? And that's another indicator that you can look at as an APM and say, he's only got 15 out of 16 students engaged, what's going on? If I really wanted to jump into this class, I can find out who wasn't engaged, why weren't they engaged. You know, is this a student that we should be talking to the ASC about? You know, should I be talking to the instructor? Is there a problem going on? Is this somebody that's going to come back later and want a grade appeal? You can use all of the data in here to make whatever determinations you need to make. On the left is the average number of student sentences. Again, it's calculated based on 100 characters, however many total characters there were, divided by the number of students engaged. Okay, so we can see in this example that the number of student postings were just greater than 5, but their number, the average number of sentences was greater than 15. So these students are really engaged in this class. They're not just saying, hey, Sally, that was sweet. They're really diving in and going, you know, I'm getting this, this is so on and so forth. I'm going to go into examples and show you what the other side of the coin looks like here in a minute. Are there any questions on, this is how you interpret it? This is how you read those rings and make sense of the information that's in front of you. That and where they're ranked in order on the page.
If I can jump in for a second.
Sure.
The reason why we have these four variables in one graphical display is to allow for a quick graphical perception of what the situation in class. If you see a certain shape, one versus the other, and I'm sure you go over it, then also very quickly you can grasp what the situation in that class vis-a-vis the type of discussion. So that's the advantage of having four variables on one chart. Basically, the scale was kind of adjusted to allow all the four of them to be shown at the same scale. Hence the definition, the arbitrary definition of what is a sentence, you know, number of characters divided by 100. So everything will fit in the scale of 0 to 20. That's the idea. Everything above 20 will show up as 20. You need to know also if you see something at 20, either the number of postings or the length in sentences, you will never know whether it's exactly 20 or above 20, but for the sake of our purpose, if it's 20 or above, we really don't care, we know it's good, it's so above. Because we didn't want to have a scale going from 0 to infinity, because everything shrinks to the middle and you're not going to see any details.
And this goes into Dr. Walker's question about the posting videos. I know, is it all right if I use you, Art, as an example? Art does a fantastic job in my program of putting videos up in the discussion board. So it kind of gives this third dimension to the discussion. However, one video is how many characters? One. Right? So Art's average sentence length is nothing. But if you go in, and this is why you use these reports, because it shows up, and I'm like, you know, I know Art's a lot more gabby than one. Let me go in and see what's going on in here. You go into the class, and then it's this 4-minute video of him talking to a single student about their discussion post, and it's like, well, okay, I can disregard that, right? But if I was to go in and it said, cool, that'd be a problem, right? Because you just don't want that going on. So are there any questions on this? Any questions online? No, we're good? Any questions over here? Okay, so here is an example of what we don't want to look at on the very first line of the KPI. Okay, now, this was an interesting scenario. When I took over LCS, this is what I found on the very first time I ran the KPI. Okay? The instructors on the left too, where there is 0 of anything, that was bizarre to me, considering I ran it for week 1 as of Sunday. Right? There should be something showing up, even for the student. Well, what this instructor had done is gone into their class and turned off the viewable in Blackboard. Right? So KPI couldn't go in and get any data because that class was, in essence, in the closet. Just put away. You can't see it. Right? So I had to work with this individual on a couple of different weeks, and then I would go in and click it, and they would go in and re-click it, and it was a little torment. But we got it figured out now. The two on the right, though, are exactly what we don't want to see. And I've talked to some APMs in the past who have seen this and said, oh, no, that's not a good-looking KPI. And they're like, why? 17 out of 20, 20 out of 25 are engaged. I said, yeah, but what's your instructor doing? What do you mean? They're engaged. No, they're not. Right? Your instructor in this scenario is not even in the classroom. Right? And the way that I like to explain this scenario and why this is no good is because has anybody ever taught on ground in a formal classroom? Okay, so if you have done that, it'd be like you going into that classroom, this one, writing a discussion question on the board, putting a tape recorder on the table, and leaving. And then coming back later to collect the tape recorder to make sure your students answered the discussion question and had a discussion. What did you do? As an instructor, the instructor didn't do anything. They had a tape recorder, and they took 2 seconds to write a sentence out with a question mark at the end of it. Right? This isn't what we pay our AFs to do. Right? One of the biggest things in this university that I've come to find is that engagement is what we're here for. Engaging the students. We're hiring AFs to bring their expertise into the classroom and discuss their field. If they're absent, they're not needed. Right? We could run it as a tutorial and just have the students talk to each other and save us a whole lot of money. Right? But that's not what we want because that doesn't give the students anything. So first thing I do is I look at this and I go, well, that's really not good at all. Especially when this is what I'm used to seeing from my instructors. Right? So this is my marketing class. This is what I'm used to seeing. And you can see this high level of engagement from these instructors. All of them are at the 20 in the posts, and the majority of them are in the far-flung regions on the averages per sentence. Now, what's interesting in this scenario is that the bottom two that you're looking at right here are the top performers, and yet the average number of sentences per instructor are lower. But when I went in and looked at this, just because they're the top performer in your program doesn't mean that you shouldn't still look at them, because you take the instructor right here and 319, right, that box right there that Deontay is pointing at, and their average number of sentences is almost in the middle. What are they saying? Right? Is it just nice job, nice job, nice job, nice job, nice job, nice job? Because we don't want that either. Right? They're in the bottom because look at how engaged their students are. Mm-hmm. Their students are just lighting the class up. So the instructors sometimes don't feel that they need to do anything. And I hear that a lot. But Jeremy, I get in and I kind of nudge the conversation along and, you know, let the students discover their own path. That's great, because that's not a bad thing until the end of course surveys come out and says my instructor wasn't here, I felt like I needed to control the class.
There are times when very active students lead conversation, drive conversation, and you can have a tendency to just watch. So act.
Yes.
Without redirecting, challenging, contrary view.
But in talking with students, they like instructors to put their real-world viewpoints into the class. Even if it's not redirecting the class, right. If it's not nudging the class, just, hey, I like where you got this thing going, just figured I'd just put my 2 cents in here. Let's keep this rolling, right? So I went in here, and the reason why the number of sentences were so low on this instructor was because of what Z was talking about. This petered out at 20. This instructor had 75 posts that week. Each one was not very long. I mean, there wasn't, that's great, that's great, that's great. They were sentences, they were using the Socratic method, but because they had so many posts, it shrank that average sentence length down quite considerably, right? So this is what I found when I took over LCS. This is what I was used to. It was a big shock. So what do? I go into Blackboard, right? And I'm pretty sure all of you guys that have been doing this much longer than me, you go into the evaluations, into the performance dashboard, and then here's this instructor, just to let you know what instructor the 105.8 or 93, the second one from the right, that's the instructor that we're about to dive into. Okay? So, go into performance dashboard, come in, we can see this instructor, discussion boards, 10 posts. Here's where they are. Ask the instructor, there was 9. Introductions, there was 6. Now, I don't know where everybody else is on this, but introductions, that's what we do in the first week. That's the most important thing that our instructors should be engaging in. If you remember back, and maybe you don't, there were 19 students in this class. This instructor only had 6 introduction posts. This is not acceptable, right? At least in my opinion. Also, there's 2 discussion posts in Unit 1. This instructor didn't get engaged in a single one. In Unit 2, there are 2 discussion posts. This instructor only got involved in 5 conversations in 1 discussion. The other discussion was irrelevant. And going back, real quick, this is week 1. This is Unit 1, which is why there's no instructor engagement on there, because we can see and verify in Blackboard there was no instructor engagement. Right? And so when you look at the average post length, minimum post length, maximum post length, this is all that total post. This is all that information that the KPI is pulling out to generate in that nice little diagrams we put together. So I say, okay, I go from here and instructors say, well, you know what? I didn't really get engaged in the post because I did a lot of feedback. Okay? We did a lot of feedback. Let's check that out. These are their comments here in the introductions. Before I get into the feedback.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
This is this instructor's. And remember, this instructor only did 6. This is 2 of them. This is their engagement in the week 2 of the 5. This is what they meant by engaging the classroom. Great insight, Sally.
Good job.
Okay, but Dr. Bauer, look at it. I get into, and I do a lot of feedback in the grade book. Awesome, let's check that out. I guess they were succinct in their feedback.
That's their definition of formative.
Well, hey, look it. This is something they gave him 100. Maybe that person rocks, so there's not a lot of feedback needed. How about somebody they didn't give 100 to? Oh, you're verbose on that one. Right? So we can listen to the AFs and they're talking about everything that they do, but you know, I'm kind of a Ronald Reagan fan in that trust but verify. Right? This gives us the means by which to take another look. I'm going to just rush through. This is the marketing person that I used in the example when I showed you guys on how to evaluate, how you should look at these. We're going to take this instructor up there. So we see the same coming into here, 10. But look at this. 19, 21, 19, 26, 21. Right? How many students did they have? 16, and all 16 are engaged. Right? So we can see, I mean, look at 20,420 characters as a maximum. And this instructor knows what they're doing. Right? We look in here. These are some big conversations. 113 posts in a discussion board. You know, that's a vibrant conversation that's going on there, a lot of back and forth. Here's this person's welcome message. And this instructor had more introductory posts than there were students in the class, meaning he got engaged in the conversation in the introductions with the student. This is an example of this instructor's post in the discussion board, their response to a student's post.
Modeling what they're looking for from the students.
That's correct.
Critical thinking, richness, robustness.
This is their feedback on somebody that didn't give, not very verbose, but this right here is awesome.
Is this Szymanski?
So, are there any questions on any of that? That kind of runs through evaluating and, yeah.
It's more a question for all of our comments. With performance dashboard, do you also use course reports?
I don't know that one, but if you showed it to me, I'm pretty sure I would.
This is one, of course. One of the things with course reports that you can pull is you can actually do an audit of how much time your instructor
Spends online?
spends in each post and where they're spending their time. So you can actually see if an instructor is spending 12 hours a week on a class, but if they're only spending it on the announcements page versus actually in the course.
You're talking about a Blackboard?
Yep.
Yes, exactly. I've used that as well.
We can do a case on that then.
Excellent.
So, now we're getting into, yep.
Well, I appreciate this lesson feedback. I think in formative feedback, it's essential to point out something that a student has done well, or that you could highlight, so it doesn't look like, sometimes my instructors get generic.
Yeah.
I'm constantly redirecting them. While feedback may be very good, it's generic. Feedback should specify what that person in fact did well,
Yeah.
that you highlighted. And what I instruct my instructors to do is to pick out a post that was particularly valuable in that thread that you could then comment as an example for that student to emulate in future posts.
That's good advice. I don't do that. I do that in their feedback for assignments, but the feedback in the discussion boards, this is where my controversy comes in. Okay? When I look at the discussion boards, it's like this room right here. Okay? It's a discussion. It's not an essay writing contest. I'm not a big fan, and I don't care about APA. It's about discussing.
But what I find that does, it allows the student to say, you just weren't cutting and pasting a generic piece of feedback. You were actually looking at their post and identified one that was of particular interest. So it gives a feeling, I believe, of one-on-one.
Yeah, no, you're right. So, thank you for that. Yeah, I know we got to wrap it up. So the rest of it's really quick because I just went through the meat and potatoes of it all. You have a question?
I just had a question or a comment there. Maybe some limitations to this in advanced programs, because there are some discussions that you want to have where you're using what we call the gradual release model or the Socratic method, where the instructor is not as engaged by intent in what goes on.
Yes.
So it's important for the APM or the dean to understand if indeed that is going on.
Yes, well, and that's where this is going to vary by program.
Right.
This is how I use it because in my program, my expectations are very much different than
Absolutely,
some others. So
but you know,
tailoring this to how you,
right.
And this is where B was talking about the pattern on the KPI.
Right.
I look for certain patterns, and if it doesn't fit within a pattern that I recognize, then I go digging.
Well, it's important to remember that the institutional perspective is discussion boards are critical.
Yes.
So if you've got courses that don't rely a lot on discussion boards, you've got to look at why that is, because that's not the direction.
But Chris, I'm not saying that not to use discussion boards. I'm saying using discussion boards maybe in a little different way, a more advanced way. and the numbers may not show up in the patterns that we see here, but just as Jeremy was talking about, that's where we have to go in and dig and say, why is this happening? Give me a rationale for that.
And the APM should know their courses and their programs, so they should know what level of patterns or participation.
And I said in the beginning, advanced courses.
Yeah. So, we can talk about
Yeah,
that,
okay.
I'd like to.
We're going to be in that session that she's going to be doing on discussion boards later.
Yay!
I already know.
So this is how I use it, and this is where, again, some of the controversy comes in. Not everybody likes this. It's a bit uncomfortable. It feels sometimes like you're airing out your dirty laundry. I come from the workaday world of industry, and you're out there on the line anyway, so I don't care. I email all of my KPIs to all of my instructors all at once. So everybody gets to see everybody else's results. And you get to see where you are on the leaderboard, right? Some people don't like that. I don't want to take the time to separate everybody out. So unfortunately, if you teach in my program, you're out there. But most of the people in the business school come from a business background, and they're used to having their names on leaderboards, especially in the sales and marketing side of industry.
Exactly.
And we're just used to it. So it may not work for you, but it saves me time, and it creates an environment kind of where it's like, geez, I'm not doing as good as my peers, I should do better. And that goes back to third grade playground rules. Yeah.
Since I started last mod, I didn't send out the KPIs at all. That I didn't send them out. This mod, we are, and this morning I just did a mod-to-mod comparison.
Yeah.
And our engagement, now that I'm sending it out to all instructors, is beyond better. So by seeing the guys seeing it, I think it literally took people from not knowing where they stood or what it looked like to now, majority, I want to say like 98% of my courses are good engagement.
Yeah.
So it's seeing that everybody else's actually helps my instructors.
And I think I got, that first page that I showed you where there was no engagement, everybody in that LCS class, after I took it over, stepped up enormously. Yeah.
I was just going to say the same thing. We started doing this beginning of mod 5, and our engagement has changed drastically.
That's perfect. That's exactly.
It really works.
That's.
Plus, then doesn't it engender engagement discussion amongst the instructors?
Yeah, it does, and like, I don't know if you guys we hold a marketing meeting every, I don't know, 4 months or whatever, and in there we talk about, with all my AFs, they either come or they're online, and you talk about the engagement and the KPI too. So as you can see, I email this out to all my instructors. Sometimes I'll put in an example, like this Professor Burgess. He got an example or an email from one of his students, and he sent it to me. I followed in Art's footsteps here, and I collect kudos from all of my AFs. So at the end of every mod, students will say, hey, this is great, so-and-so, you were one of the best instructors. I have them send those to me, and I keep them, and then I share them with the team. And this is one of the times that I felt that this was necessary. It's a great quote by a student.
Jeremy, just something that Jen said. I think it'd be interesting to see in a couple of months that increased engagement in the effective camera number of deaths.
Yes.
Because we believe, and we do, that the more engagement we end up giving the student, fewer dropouts are going to happen. I think we'll be able to see that.
Yeah, I think that you'll see that as well. So it's big. So these are, some of the, when I first took over BUS 311 and LCS, they had never seen KPIs before. The marketing program, I believe Art pioneered the KPI, and then it went into Zvi, who refined it into what we use today, if I know my history very well. So the marketing department, they were always kind of just used to seeing their numbers. But when I gave this to the LCS and the BUS 311 team, these were some of the comments that I got from my AFs. Right? right? Wow, this is an eye-opener for sure. And then, you know, questions, how many should I have in the postings? Thanks for sending this information. This is the first I've seen this report. What's its purpose? Right? So, I mean, there was a lot of questions by me sending out the first time. I had the answers to the AFs. Luckily for me, I knew the answers. But before this, I always try and use this analogy when I'm talking to people. Anybody ever go bowling in here? Anybody ever go bowling? Okay. When you go bowling, you have a ball and there's pins at the end of the alley. How many pins are there? 10 pins. All right. 10 pins, right? And you get to see those pins as you roll that ball, right? If we're not sharing these reports with our AFs, it's like you putting a blanket in front of them as they roll their ball. They can hear the pins get hit, so they know they hit something, and then you say, hey, you got 2 left. Okay, I got a little bit of information, I got 2 left. What 2? Is it a 1 and 2 pin? Is it a 7-10 split? What am I looking at? How do I roll my next ball? Right? Sending out this KPI to your instructors, I believe, and we've got a little bit of proof now from 2 other APMs, this lifts that veil of that blanket and it allows the AF now to know what targets they're shooting for. And their engagement levels go up. I do this every Wednesday. Every Wednesday I run this report. I'll send it out to my AFs. Wednesdays, sometimes if Wednesdays get busy, I'll send it out on Thursdays, as Deontay can attest to. But I'm pretty religious on it. I don't make any comments in the email other than here's this week's KPI. Please let me know if you have any questions. The instructors that I need to deal with on a one-on-one basis, I email separately. So I'm not calling anybody out on the carpet in public. They're already out there. I got to assume that the other AFs believe that those AFs are getting some type of content. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Jeremy. Good job.
Thank you. We appreciate you and your presentation. This is very informative. As you all know, this is the new location for the Lunch and Learn. And also thank you to all the online members. We really appreciate your questions as well. So we'll be in this room every Wednesday from now until August 5th from 1 to 2 p.m. for the Lunch and Learn. So next week, I'll be presenting on professional development resources, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you all. So enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Oh, it's Health and Wellness Day next Thursday. Be there.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm here too. Okay. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you very much.